All right. I had a phone call. I just came in and halfway through my World War III update, and it basically the guy blurted out his phone number, so I was like, I can't put that up. So I have to do it again. Stupid phone. I don't know. My machine is like that. Sometimes it tells me who's calling. Sometimes it doesn't. You know. But anyway, let's get into this. Check out my hat. That's too bad because I had Gazoo eating a daddy long legs on the ground with his killer instinct. Well, it took him forever to get to because he's lazy, but... Okay, let's start over again. Okay, I'll try not to babble as much on this one. 10 EU states support the Muslim ban, so to speak. 61% in France and 71% in Poland. Now, last night I think the lights were out in Belgium, and I don't know what that was about. And, of course, this morning there was in France a foiled attempt of a bunch of jihadis. They got a 16-year-old girl. The French police detained her, and she's basically, you know, a Muslim radical. You know, they're there. And, yeah, that was foiled. Now, also in France, I guess I'll jump ahead here a bit just because it's trying to keep it into one thing. There was an explosion at Flamanville power plant in Normandy coast of France. I think 5 people or so were hurt, but they say it wasn't a nuclear explosion, it was something else at the plant exploded. But this is my whole thing about nuclear power. Yes, it's statistically the safest form of power that we have. Hydro's clean, and if a hydro dam bursts, you flood a bunch of, you flood a village or two. You know, it'll drain out eventually. You know, but with the nuclear power, I mean, especially with what's going on with Fukushima and stuff like that, that's still melting down. It's just brutal what's going on there. Yeah, that's an ongoing thing. So the thing is that's why I'm against nuclear power. It's like when it goes wrong, it goes super wrong. But considering all these little events all happening, Belgium power out, maybe that had something to, maybe they were getting, that had to do with the power plant. Maybe France sends power into Belgium from there. I don't know. I don't know if you're from France, you can let me know where that power plant sends its power to, which would explain the power outage. But this also comes on the heels the next day of a thwarted terrorist attack in France. So, things to keep in mind. Comet 45P, supposed to pass us February 11th. Today is the 10th, so that's tomorrow. Again, these space objects, I did a response video kind of to one of my commenters. You know, about, you know, basically, I was saying in one of my, I think the previous World War III update, that if there was a space rock coming in, they wouldn't let us know in time. I think what's happening is, tell me if you've picked up on this pattern. You hear the news, world elites are heading to their bunkers. And they go from their to their bunkers from time to time. I mean, they've been building these things since 2012. I think they're pretty much all built now, but they're like, every couple of weeks or so you hear, oh, they're going to the bunkers. And about a week later, oh, this asteroid such and such just went by and passed between us and the moon. Oh, we didn't even see that one coming. I think it's the opposite. I think they see it coming, and they're like, we don't know for sure if it's going to hit, but until we know it's going to miss us, let's not tell anybody. The government has gotten into such a point where they feel like they have to lie to you at every little angle. But I made a response video to that. It's going to come out a little bit later. As far as my silver ones that are coming out, you guys put a lot of great comments on there. Thank you very much for that. Some of you guys were like, oh, you kind of could have spent better. Some of you guys were, okay, well, if you're thinking long term, you know, that type of thing. Yeah, okay. I will probably do a lot more on the gold and silver and stuff like that. Well, as I can do it. I'm more of a bread and bullets, guys. You guys know that. But, you know, it pays to diversify, too. Diversity is our strength, that's why. I know, don't flame me too much there. You know, I got to use it somewhere, right? So, yeah, with the silver and stuff like that, I mean, all the world elites, they pretty much got gold, they got silver. You got guys like, say, Warren Buffett or George Soros or Jim Rogers or whatever. Now, Jim Rogers, I think he's a little bit, I haven't listened to him in a while, but he's kind of like, no, buy gold, silver. And he gives, I think, yeah, he's a tycoon, he makes money, that's what he's there. But he's kind of like, you know, these guys are lying and I'm making money off of their lies, and I'm telling you. So what are you going to do? You know what I mean? I'm telling you how to do it. I find Gregory Mannarino's the kind of same thing. You know, always bet against the Fed and you're going to 99% of the time win, and that type of thing. But I don't really want to get involved in the stock market. The only thing I've got in the stock market is my pension plan that was at my previous job, and I can't touch that till I'm 65 anyway. So that thing, it goes up, it goes down. Like I think it's up a little bit this time around, but You know, when it goes up a bit, and then they knock the crap out of it, and then it goes right down. I could pull some money out of it, and I'm thinking of doing my max yearly, take out the most, and you can do like one major withdrawal a year type of thing with it. And I was thinking of taking all that, take the monetary loss of the penalties, leave the locked-in stuff, whatever I can't touch, leave it in there, and take that and invest it in other things. And I'm going to do separate videos on that, like, how to invest, what you should have as a prepper. Bullets, bread, medication, seeds, gold, silver, whatever. I'm going to try to get into more of that kind of stuff, too. I do get sidetracked quite a bit. But anyway, so the RAF scrambled 2 Typhoon fighters to escort and possibly shoot down a Pakistani airliner, PK 757, or was it an Indian airliner? Pretty sure it was a Pakistani airliner. PK should be Pakistani. Because there was a guy making a huge disturbance on the airplane, and this guy apparently was a wanted man, and I'll give you a guess of what origin. He was one of those guys, I guess. So I don't know what all happened, but they guided the airplane in, and they were ready to shoot this thing down. So, yeah. China and Russia, basically currency wars. Basically, this is something that's been ongoing anyway. We're already in a currency war. We've been in trade war, currency war, shooting war, right? So we got a trade and currency war kind of already going on. Now, what they're proposing is China has already kind of gotten world reserve currency status, but they're not ready to really dominate the world yet. They can't do it yet. Even though they're hoarding gold and silver, like Russia and China and India. I think India is the biggest silver hoarder. And, of course, India is kind of a bit of a canary in the coal mine with their, eliminating cash or whatever, which is having devastating effects on some people because, people there, they don't have bank accounts there. They do everything in cash, right? So there's that. But the idea that they're proposing, and Iran is also talking about dumping the dollar, but it doesn't really matter. It's not like Iran uses the dollar largely anyway. And I think that's more just of a saber rattle to see what Trump's going to do. And I think what's more they're looking at is to, instead of going after a one reserve currency for the yuan renminbi, what I think they're doing is they're going to want to bring out a basket of cashes, a basket of currencies. And that way you have all these competing currencies, which is okay. That's okay. However, that could be devastating for the petrodollar if people start ditching the petrodollar. And the domino to fall would be, well, right now Russia and China have already been ditching the U.S. dollar. China's been ditching the U.S. dollar. I think out of the $4 trillion that they owe, they already got rid of 1.3. So they're getting rid of this cash, and all that money is going to come back to the States. Now, the States could just destroy the money, but it will kill the velocity money globally. And that's one of the things. Now, if Iran jumps and says, that's it, we're out of the U.S. dollar, we're only going to use the ruble or the yuan renminbi, whatever it might be, then you'll see maybe Libya be next. Libya wants to get off the petrodollar for sure. They're that's why they keep getting attacked and, all these, stealth bombers bombing the crap out of their oil refiners. It's because basically the U.S. is telling Libya, sell your oil in the U.S. currency or we're going to drop democracy JDAMs on you. It's a death and debt-based economy. You either take the U.S. petrodollar or you get democracy JDAMs dropped on you. That's the death model that they have. And that hasn't changed. That's still under Trump, is still there. Now, mind you, it's 3 weeks in. It feels like, even on the news, it feels like Trump's already been in power for like 3 years, just because he's doing so much so fast. And that is true. Now, I'm going to get to the issue of whether Trump is the good guy or the bad guy. Again, I think we're going to get some wins and we're going to get some losses. Yes, I'm very concerned about all the people he's, surrounding himself with, but I also understand that he doesn't have a lot to pick from. There's really not a lot of people he can pick from. The entire GOP is the neocon warhawks establishment. He has to pick from a basket of deplorables and stuff like that. I pretty much held that stance right from the beginning, and I said right through the election that there's no choice. You have to vote Trump because he might be the good guy. A cat. My cat outside. Look at my cat's outside. I thought that was a cat. Oh, okay. Better than the cat. All right, minus 18 out there. Like 13 but my little cat, she goes out there for about a half an hour at a time. So, she's fine. So, he's got, deplorables and shadies to pick from. It's kind of like being in a room full of mobsters and say, pick the most honest ones. You know what I mean? There's no honor among thieves there. So that's what Trump has got to pick from. So I get that. Yes, he surrounded himself with Goldman Sachs guys. Very troubling. He's gotten rid of Dodd-Frank. Very troubling. Now, what they could be doing, if new boss is the same as the old boss, okay, build the wall. Appeases the people. Get rid of Dodd-Frank. Nobody knows. Don't draw any attention to it. Mainstream media isn't drawing any attention to that when he was supposed to be pro-Glass-Steagall. Now, you can't put in Glass-Steagall right now because if you did, you'd implode the system. So Trump doesn't want the system to implode right away on him. But I do believe if Trump is setting himself up to hit the reset button, maybe getting rid of Dodd-Frank might, doesn't mean necessarily he's going to be able to do the bailouts. He might get rid of that there might be a reason he's getting rid of that. But right now, that's in favor of the banks. There's no doubt about that. So maybe he's doing it for a reason. Maybe he's going to bail out certain things, but not others. I don't know how he's going to do this. 3 weeks in, we can't make the judgment. For it against it. Yeah, Luke Rudowski from We Are Change that guy does a bang-up job. He's skeptical of Trump for sure. There's no doubt about that. And then, of course, you got like Gary Franchi from Next News, who's Trump is holier than thou. But between the two of them, you can really get a good gray zone area rather than black and white. And I know one of my regular subscribers, we talk all the time, so to speak. I read both. When I read them, and I was like, why does this sound so familiar, what you wrote? And then it's like, oh, you probably got that from We Are Change. Yeah, so military expansion and stuff like that. So yeah, nothing has stopped right now, or nothing has stopped that Obama has done. Again, only 3 weeks in, it's going to... But, for example, the win of repeal and replace of Obamacare. Now, mind you, if it becomes a win, I don't know how they're going to... The country's broke, the thing that doesn't make sense is Trump's spending habits. But the thing, or what he wants to stimulate, because the money isn't there right now. But one thing is that we're constantly, we think Trump is going to do something, but then he does something completely different. And it does what he says he's going to do, but he does it in a different way that we weren't expecting. And that's one of the things I'm learning about Trump is don't underestimate him. It's like, yeah, okay, well, he's going to do all this stimulus spending, but he's not going to do it today. You know what I mean? Maybe, like he said himself, it's going to take about 2 years for me to get things rolling. And he has all the opposition against him. So a few things can happen. New boss can be the same as the old boss. And yes, I know about I will talk about the foreign secretary pick and stuff like that. That guy's apparently the biggest neocon out there. But we've also seen Trump throw a few of his own people under the bus and fire a few, or people resign before they get fired, whichever. So there's that. So at this point, I'm still... I hate to say it, yes, it most likely will be, he will be a puppet of the New World Order, just on the other side, or this other side of the New World... These factions fighting. It just might be new boss, same as the old boss, but just a new faction, a new shade of tyranny. That could be what it is coming down. But we're not sure yet. We don't know. But we also know with, the escalations of everything in... how am I doing for time? Everything happening in... with the military buildup, all those things are still going forward, but they're not expanding right now so far. Now, again, my fear is more of switching enemy from Russia to China, his stance on China, and yes, his guys that he's got in play for China do kind of think, it does look like they want war with China. Now, I think it's going to be more of a currency war than an actual shooting war, but a miscalculation could lead us to that. The bigger fear I have is more Trump's stance on Iran. This is kind of more, doing what the Israeli lobby wants. And that could be the whole thing. Okay, well, we'll give the Americans what they want, close their borders, do this, do that, whatever, get some jobs back there, make people happy, but in return, we want the U.S. to take out Iran. So that could be Israel's, again, I think it's going to be such a gray area of win-losses. But remember, Trump was just to hold off the next 4 years so that you didn't go into a thermonuclear war right away with Russia, China, and, chances are Iran probably already has nukes. They would just buy them, you know what I mean? Russia would probably just give it to them, like that type of thing. If North Korea and Iran do missile technology trades with each other, Iran already has nukes. So when they say they're doing their, nuclear program for peaceful purposes, I actually am more inclined to believe them, not because I think they're honest. I think it's because they don't need it. You know, they're doing that because they want to create power. It's so much easier just to buy the warheads. And I think, well, from North Korea will just, you know, Iran and North Korea will do trade. They do trade with each other, so it's just a matter of time before warheads. You know, the North Koreans will build the warheads, sell it to Iran. Iran will build missiles, and they sell them to North Korea. That type of thing. Here in Canada, after that, and I'm doing, I don't want to do a video on it until I have more info. I'm going to have to look at Bissonnette's Facebook page to see if I can kind of decode why he did what he did. There has been no, you know, like, yes, the mainstream media is saying it's a white supremacy attack, that type of thing, on that mosque in an anti-Islamophobic attack, hate crime that was done in the mosque in Quebec City. But I think there's more to the story, because they're not running this one into the ground. Now, that said, we have a Muslim MP in Parliament there, Hadi, I think is her name, Memorandum 103, basically blasphemy law. This is brought in by the OIC in the UN, and the OIC is basically an Islamic, all these Islamic countries that basically try to push Sharia law around the world. Once again, we have UN overreach in Canada, and that's all they talk about in the Parliament, is how to bring in, like the NDP, they only bring in United Nations laws. Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, Sustainable Development. Almost all their laws go back to the UN, that type of thing. These are not organic people in Canada saying, we want this law. No. And this is an anti-Islamophobic law. And right here in Quebec, they've already hired something like 500 police investigators to watch social media to crack down. I think one guy's already been arrested. So my days are numbered, because you know, I'm going to be going against the blasphemy laws. It's, you know, because you can't, what this Memorandum 103 is going to be is basically you will not be able to criticize Islam. So in other words, Sharia compliant. So whenever that goes through, and they will be pass it because of the sympathy. Again, we don't have any spine in any of our MPs. They're political correct to the point of ridiculousness. But anyway. So the Russia Review Act is basically something that's been going on about the sanctions. Now, let's talk about the sanctions on Russia. Donald Trump has not gotten rid of one sanction. That is true. But, again, 3 weeks in, I think, again, remember Trump said he would negotiate with Russia from his position of strength. So I think what the Russians are doing, it looks like the Russians are trying to play ball with Trump as much as possible. You know, they're going to work out something in Syria, work together on a plan, get rid of ISIS, that type of thing. Now, if Trump gets rid of ISIS, this is a good thing. There's no way to spin that any other way. And if he does it with the Russians, that's improving world relations. That would be the most symbolic thing we would probably have ever seen in world history, of two major superpowers joining together as one force to defeat terrorism. Now, the thing is it does look like Trump is kind of not backing the rebels, and there's so far it's only John McCain and Lindsey Graham that are still trying to hold on to that ridiculousness. And hopefully he exposes those guys for who they are and what they've done, and gets them under rule of law. Now, that said, that's if he's if he's able to do it. Now, is Henry Kissinger really running Donald Trump? We don't know yet. Henry Kissinger has been a bit quiet since the inauguration, but according to Steve Pachenik, it was him and Kissinger and a bunch of other ones that were doing this overthrow. So in that sense, you're just on the other side of the New World Order, and Trump is just a puppet. Because Kissinger, Zbigniew Brzezinski, George Soros, Henry Kissinger, the most evil men on the planet, for the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, these people have to go to jail. And we have to put them in jail, because I'm going to get to Brazil in a moment there, about their police stand down. That's something else. But anyway, the Russia Act. So if we see Trump saying, okay, well, we're going to get rid of this sanction if Russia does this, and then it tosses the ball into Russia's court, which is a good thing, because then it puts the Russians, for the first time in 8 years, where they actually have to do something honest. I mean, Russia's had this kind of unique situation where all they had to do to make U.S. look bad in the past 8 years was tell the truth. But now if the ball bounces back into Russia's court, say, well, we want you to do this, and we will get rid of the sanctions. If Trump does that, and they're fair, then what we will see is that, okay, Trump is a bit of a win. I think we're going to get a bit of a double-edged sword with Trump, no matter which way we go. Still better off than Clinton. You know, I don't think I wavered at all on where Trump was going to go if he would won. I think I've been pretty consistent saying, yeah, we'll have to watch him, because we don't know if he's he's still playing his hand. He's not putting all his cards down right now. So far, he's doing some of the things people have two different optics on this. That, oh my God, he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's building the wall, and he's doing the Muslim ban or immigration ban or whatever. Yeah, okay, and he's trying to get jobs coming back. It's hard to say. It looks like he is setting up for the economic collapse because we know that the bankers are going to let it go on his watch. And some of the predictions are out there. But again, we've seen prediction after prediction saying the economy is going to collapse by next Tuesday or in 5 months on this date or what. And it never comes to happen because they kick the can down the road. I think Trump is still going to kick the can down the road. He doesn't want the economy to go down on his watch unless he's controlling it. And in 3 weeks in, he does not have enough stuff in place to control it, to handle that crisis. I think you probably won't see this for about a year and a half before he hits the reset button. But when he does, bang, all these things that he's putting into place now will just bang, take hold like you wouldn't believe. And by the end of his fourth year, you probably see him, a huge job boom and everything like that. But he has to throw the bankers under the table. But if he were to do it now, he throws everything under the table. So he's got a lot of ducks in the row to put before he starts his shooting. So again, in 90 days, first 90 days or whatever in office is not going to be enough to know. It's not going to be enough to know. You got to think about what he has to take down. So if he's the good guy, I have a hunch he means well. He's a good guy. Will they manipulate him? That's the thing. But he's been underestimated so many different times. Now, if he's just a puppet, then he didn't win anyway. He was put in there. But I think he actually did win. And if he did win, then he's still a wild card. So we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, I do have the same concerns everybody else has of who he's surrounding himself with, for sure. Explosion in the... I think I already did the... or did I? The explosion at the nuclear power plant in France, in Flamanville, off the Normandy coast. Last night, I think the power went out in Belgium. And then, of course, I heard about this explosion. And then, of course, today the French have arrested a 16-year-old jihadi girl that was going to basically either go fight in Syria or do a terrorist attack in France. And they clamped down on that. Okay. Another one that's going on. Horton Murphy, the bill, it's an anti-propaganda bill that Obama put $250 million towards. And this is for basically the Ministry of Truth and the Global Engagement Center. Like, how Orwellian 1984 can that, Minority Report, there you go. Israel's airstrike on the Golan Heights, attacking Assad's forces. Once again, the Israelis, with their preemptive strikes on everybody, at some point, yes, I do believe we're going to get to a point where, no, the U.S. will not come to the aid, because the U.S. soldiers will not come to the aid of Israel at some point. Some will, but I think in the majority of the people, at this point, we're ready to throw Israel under the bus, and I think that would be better for humanity if we did, because this is why, one of the major reasons that we're in the Middle East is for the Greater Israel Project, and that's why these countries are being destabilized. If you go, is it an official plan? No, of course not, because they can't make it an official plan. But if you look at the Greater Israel Project, the Clearly Plan, all that coming off the Balfour Declaration, and Israel and how it all plays into there for the Greater Israel Project, the fact that something they talked about in the 1960s that you're seeing completely play out almost word to word of the Balkanizing of the Middle East, what are they going to say? Oh, it's just a coincidence? No, it's a plan. It's clearly a plan. Of course it's a plan. Moving on. The Octa 21 tactical missile. This thing, there's about 50 of these Russia is bringing into Syria. Now, the thing about these things is that they're non-nuclear, but they're longer. They're like a cruise missile, I guess. I don't know a lot about them. I think it's called the Octa 21. But these are heavy missiles, so I don't know what they'll be going after with these things. But most likely heavier installations, that kind of thing. Bunkers, what have you. Okay, in a small town in Brazil, off the coast, there's a police strike going on, and I don't know if you guys heard of this or not, but this is something to keep in mind, and something that I was talking about that with all the, like the Black Lives Matter and all that, the anti-police, stuff that's going on in, on the mainstream media, how anti-police it is. They never talk about all the good work police do, just the bad stuff. To get a nationwide stand down. Now, remember, Henry Kissinger said something along the lines of that if the United Nations were to send troops into like America or someplace like that, right now people would be outraged, but in the future they're going to demand it. They're gonna be screaming for it to happen. To get a nationwide police stand down, this is the blueprint here: order from chaos. So these police are standing down on strike because they're not getting paid well enough. And in 4 days, now mind you, this is Brazil, which is a rough area to begin with. The homicide rate, not the overall crime rate, just the homicide rate, went up 650%. It's like gun battles in the streets everywhere. So I guess all the gangs are like, there's no cops, let's get this done while we can, knock off the competition. I don't know what's going on there, why they're shooting at each other, but it's just astronomical amount of crime. And that's what happens in a police stand-up. Now, would it be as bad in the States? I think it would be, because of these Antifa and stuff like that, the vandals out there. Sargon of Akkad covered one of these Antifa neo-Bolshevik type guys out there. We're out there riding for the working class type of thing, and the working class, trust me, they don't want to have anything to do with you punks. But it just shows like these guys, because the police are standing down in the States, like at UC Berkeley, that type of thing, they were told to stand down to allow the things to get out of control. Now, I think under Trump's authoritarian streak, you will see the crackdown. Now, we saw some Antifa, and this is where the UN could be, if you could spin this situation the right way, which I don't think that right now they could do it, but if they were to get a nationwide police stand down in the United States, okay, with all these Antifa or whatever, or allow authorized lethal weapon use on the people against these Antifa and stuff like that, to get the problem, reaction, solution, subversion program, demoralize, destabilize, crisis normalization period is a form of martial law and locking down the civilian. And then the situation is normalized. And the rules for radicals from the Solinsky. Remember those three things. If you understand those three things, you'll understand what you're looking at. And I've even had one of my subscribers say, now that you've explained that, now I see it. And it's true. When I first learned about it, then it was like that movie They Live with Roddy Piper, where he puts on those specialty sunglasses and he sees all the aliens for the first time. He's like that. And it's like, then he sees like all these signs saying obey and all that stuff. And it's like, that's exactly what understanding a subversion program is to a person like me. It's like, I see it and I can hear it. I know what the rhetoric is. I know when I hear like an SJW, it's like, I hear their brainwashed rhetoric. Like they're not thinking for themselves. That's why I say these people operate slightly above mental retardation or autism, where they can only respond to you in emotion. They don't have critical thinking skills. None of them do. That type of thing. So, if they got a nationwide stand down of the police, which under Trump, if Trump is the real deal, then that's not going to happen. But what Trump will do will say green light, stomp some heads, crack some skulls. And we saw all these Antifa, a bunch of Antifa. They were, I think it was in Boston, and the riot cops rushed in. They put these guys in. They put it to them, and hog tie them, throw them in the back of the paddy wagon, that type of thing. And everybody's like, the majority of people don't want these radicals. These radicals, again, these people are the useful idiots. The radical left are useful idiots. So for the right-wingers to go out there, and you got like Young Turks saying out there, if it wasn't the right-wingers, pretending to be Antifa, and the right-wingers don't do that. Like, that's the thing. That's what the left does. It's not what the right does. The right-wingers are out there. They'll protest, legitimately protest. Look, do you remember when the Tea Partiers came out and they just completely left all their signs all over the place and trashed the place? No, neither do I, because they didn't. Almost all the Tea Partiers, they'd go out and protest and leave the area cleaner than what they found it. You know what I mean? That's what right-wingers do. I'm not saying there are no right-wingers out there that do bad things. Of course, radical left, radical right, you're going to get extremes, sure. But right now, the radical left are the useful idiots. And they are basically the reason that martial law will have to come out. It'd be like, we have to do this because these people are too radical. So in other words, the radicals, like in Soviet-style ideological subversion, whenever they go to the normalization period, it is a crackdown on them. They did their job. They created the destabilization. They created the crisis. And now we get to bust heads, make an example of them. The good news is, like I say, the civil war in the States will be fairly short-lived. But these radicals are going to get very violent very soon. So this is just something, yes, it can happen here. It's never going to happen here. This is a nice place. But anyway, you get the idea. Libya's out there asking Russia for help, military help and stuff like that to help defeat ISIS. But also, too, you have to understand, like, what the Libya is saying is, we need help. We're not going to go to the States because the States, when we ask for help for the States, they send in B-2 stealth bombers to take out our oil refineries. stuff like that. And what they want to do is, Italy doesn't want to take any more of the migrants coming in, obviously, and then I guess it must be the same thing with Cyprus. Cyprus is completely overrun with these migrants. But they want Russia's approach to it because Russia will go in there, not try to overthrow the government and whatever. And of course, Russia will probably do this because there'll probably be oil contracts in the future for them. So if Russia goes in there in official capacity, they're now being, like in Syria, they're being invited into Libya to help stabilize Libya. If they do that, then that means the U.S. will not be able to strike the oil fields and stuff like that, and they will be able to get the ports wrangle the ports, okay, so that it'll stop the migrant crisis, that type of thing. Now, if Russia does that, anybody anti-Russia will be tarred and feathered if they do that, and that is a play Russia can make. Maybe they're waiting to make it. What Russia would probably do is, whenever the United States hints that they're going to do that, we're going to go out and do it first. We're going to one-up them. And we'll have to watch this because that is where, that's where, the damage is already done to Europe. You're going to have a civil war in Europe, 10th Crusade, whatever you want to refer to it as, no matter what. But if they could stop the flow now, at least, you could kind of manage things and start kicking people out of the country of France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Greece, whatever. But, yeah, it's only a matter of time before the people just start going to war with these migrants. They're just way too, they're refugees and all. I think it's, yeah. The 4,500 or 45,000 troops and 150 fighters, biggest going into Eastern Europe there over for 2017. That's still on the play. Those things are still on the play. That hasn't changed at all. So yes, in this sense, yeah, Trump is still new boss, same as the old boss. But again, it could de-escalate if Trump negotiates. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, that's all we can do at this point. I mean, we're prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And of course, the Russians have the biggest Arctic buildup since the Cold War. I think there's like 28 bases open up there now. We're doing for time. That type of thing. Elliot Adams, this is the guy that Deputy Secretary of State. And this guy is like hardcore neocon. Trump's appointing him. A lot of alarm bells and whistles going off there. There's a lot of people out there that are, they're like, Trump's a good guy. I'm not buying it at all. And I get that. And I'm like, well, I don't, because it's such a dirty game that it's like, okay, well, we can really only judge him on his actions. And some of the stuff he might be doing for optics one way or another. I mean, if he's really going to take down the New World Order, he can only come at them in so many different angles as one man. And the other thing, too, is that he could be just, setting up a massive trap for them, too. Hopefully that's the case. But I think it'll be about a year and a half before we know for sure whether Trump's really on the people's side or not. I don't think we're going to see a massive improvement in the economy. For example, up here in Canada, 48,000 new jobs just came into Canada. That's great, right? But they're all part-time. You know what I mean? So we're starting to, take our hit. You know what I mean? And in the States, the same thing. There's jobs being created, but they're all low-paying part-time jobs. So if you start seeing major good jobs coming back to the States, then that's good. But there's a lot of, trust me, the people on the right wing that voted for Trump, most of them they're like, well, we don't want to have a civil war. Hillary Clinton, the riots you've seen against Trump on Inauguration Day, if it would have been, these are people, most of them, okay, and some of them are snapping out of it. So the radical lefts, it doesn't matter. These people, these Antifa, they don't even care that they're funded by George Soros because they're out there to, destroy stuff in the name of the working class. Bolshevism 2.0, right? But the thing is that, these are just vandals. They're just anarchists, right? They're black bloc. They stand for nothing. These are mentally disturbed people. Very violent people, but mentally disturbed. But the right wing knows that if Hillary Clinton would have got in, there would have probably been a military coup. Yes, you would have you're going to have your civil race war anyway. You might as well say it's brewing now. So preppers right now and right wingers are doubling down. Okay, Donald Trump seems to be a little bit more pro-Second Amendment. Double down on that. In Sweden, people are buying firearms left, right, and center. Everybody's getting ready for a civil war. The people that know what's going on know what's going on. Now, there's a lot of people that didn't know what's going on, but the Women's March actually is a turning point because there's so many women that are just, whoa! I came out here in solidarity with my fellow sisters, and what the hell is this? Ashley Judd and Madonna and this Muslim woman pretty much saying how liberating it is to wear a niqab and a hijab. You know what I mean? Like, you can't even make this shit up. You've got women's marches in Germany where you got an imam there. Hello, Akbar. It's like, do you have any idea what that guy? Here you are out there protesting against the patriarchy, and you have a Muslim radical out there going, "Hello, Akbar." Do you understand how their religion truly works? If you're in their mosque, you know where you're going to be sitting. You're going to be at the back of the room, up in the upper bleachers there. You're not, and if you're on a period, you're going to be pretty much on the outside of the building almost. You're not going to be treated like equals under those, but yeah, because it's the minority and it's anti-white male, because of the white male and stale thing, that they go for it. But that's only a handful of radical leftists. Yes, they are very vocal. Yes, the media is on their side. Yes, all that stuff. But the majority of people are supporting Trump. Even the people that don't really realize that he might be conning everybody and new boss the same as the old boss, they have hope. But one thing that almost everybody that is, on the pro-Trump side, or Trump neutral, or even anti-Hillary pro-Trump and not pro-Bernie, anti-establishment types, they're all saying, now's the time to go get your ammo, now's the time to go get your gold and silver and bread and bullets, whatever. Get that stuff. I'm anything but a hardcore prepper, but I'm prepped enough to understand what I would have to do without the rule of law. When rule of law is gone, I know what I'm doing. I already have a plan. I'm not going to tell you guys that plan, but I'm pretty sure you guys probably could have a hunch of what my plan is going to be. But war, the art of war is going to come out for me. And that's why I'm not a reactionary in the streets protesting something, number one. Protesting my big town of Danford here. My one protest sign. It'd be total hooliganism. Yeah, the whole 85 people in the town would be terrified. We got a protester. It'd be like people would be taking pictures. We finally have a protest in my town. You'd be surprised. There was protests in my town over landfill thing a few years back, but it was never like a big thing in a march or anything like that. But the thing is, I already have that contingency plan when I know all else has failed. But it hasn't failed yet. Give rule of law a chance. Again, I don't expect it to be fixed in 4 years. It's taken about 40 years to 60 years to get us to this point. This is a game plan that's been going by the Rothschilds and Rockefellers for at least 150 years. So to undo all that stuff now, and a lot of it is unraveling just naturally. The left is nihilist. For example, the baby boomers, okay, they were, very responsible for a lot of setting up the big government state and stuff like that, and stuff that we can't pay for. That's true. The Gen Xers, like myself, we were a little bit more rebellious and more liberty-oriented, and we opened the floodgates on the mass immigration a little bit more, on the advisement of the baby boomers. So we rebelled against the baby boomers to a degree, but we wanted liberty for everybody, and we believed in the multiculturalism. We believed the line that we were told, that globalism was good and all that stuff. Then the millennials come along, Generation Y comes along, and they're in between, they're a very short span because it goes Gen Xers, Generation Y, then right into the millennials. And you can almost lob Generation Y in with the millennials. And the millennials, depending on where they're born, like the 20-year-olds now are completely mind-fucked. That said, Generation Z, apparently, which is slightly younger, these are like, I think most of them are still in the 15-year-old range, but apparently they are more conservative and libertarian-oriented than people right after World War II. That's incredible. That's a very good sign of hope. They're not buying it. They're not buying the BS. But I think a lot of it has to do is because they're more internet savvy and they can find alternate stories. And I think if that's there's going to be a generation that's lost there, very sadly, that you're never going to be able to fix. They're too far gone, and that's going to be in an age bracket of the millennials that are going to be there. So, for example, if Trump reverses the Common Core thing, which it looks like they're hinting at it, but if they reverse the Common Core thing and restore real education, math, English, science, and geography and stuff like that, Americans, I'm going to take a pot shot at you. Yeah, you guys need to learn geography. That's one thing that I've always had a peeve with Americans was, how do you guys even find your way out of your own freaking doorway, man? Like, you guys don't know where anything is. You're bombing all these countries and you don't even know where they are. That type of thing. RT did a good thing. I'm teasing. I know some of you, not all of you, but it is a stereotype. Canadians say a boot. Americans can't find their way out of the front door. These are the stereotypes that we razz each other on. But RT did a thing Now, I know it's like Mark Dice. They might interview 20 people, and they take the stupidest of the 20 people. There might be 3 out of 20 that are just completely... And it makes it look like everybody interviews is stupid. I get that. But RT did a thing saying of the Muslim ban, they picked Saudi Arabia, they picked Pakistan, they picked a whole bunch of other countries. Said, of all these countries, which one is not on the list? And of course, people are picking one country or another. Only one girl got it. She says, none of them. She goes, that's not the list. So at least, she's at least paying attention to what's going on the mainstream media. However, that's the problem. People are now with the fake news meme. And it's the fake news. Okay, conspiracy theorist worked fairly well. Truther worked fairly well to demonize people with the mainstream media, and they had that one. But the fake news meme is blown up on them so bad, and they have to do so much damage control. And it's hurt them more than anything. And if anything, I think you could see the snap of people, oh, fake news, okay, well, why are they pushing that? It comes off a little bit like, yeah, for the first 2 weeks, everybody believed, the mainstream media told us it was fake news, so everything on the internet is BS. But then again, people are coming to the conclusion, well, why is everything they're saying true? And then anybody that does look into it, as soon as they find out that the mainstream lies and lies and lies. Look at this Muslim ban thing. The amount of disinformation and lie by omission and that they're doing on it, it's like anybody looks at bang, they go to Trump. They go to Trump. So yeah, the numbers are going to be on our side. There's no doubt about that. Moving along, okay, and I'll just get back to one thing. I'm not planning anything violent or anything like that because I don't know who watches my videos, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do violence. What I was saying was, when I know there is no rule of law, and we end up like Venezuela, or not Venezuela, well, Venezuela, or with a combination of what's happening in Brazil, and you have to do what you have to do, well, I understand who did it. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to go fight the man in the street. I'm going to fight the enemies of the country. I will defend my country. So until that happens, I do nothing. No, I do this. I wake people up. I do that. That's the right thing to do. I want the law enforcement and military to restore rule of law in all countries. I want them to arrest these corrupt politicians and bankers, put them in jail. These people are complete, utter evil. Get them one charge, crimes against humanity. That's all I got to do. Yes, it'll be a mess for the first little bit, but your grandkids will thank you. Where was I at? Yeah, okay, so... Okay, this comes out of Parliament here up in Canada. The CF-18s need to be replaced, of course. Our newest one was from 1987. Ironically enough, it's sitting in the National Aviation Museum in Ottawa. Our newest airplane is sitting in a museum. Yeah. So anyway, there was basically $300 million that the Super Hornet that they're throwing at the Super Hornet right now because there's a shortage of parts. I think a lot of this has to do with the new tooling up and revamping of where they're going to build the Super Hornet and stuff like that. Because Obama wanted to send that to India. Trump said no, we're going to build them in the States. And I mean, a machine like that you build in the States. Yes, it'll cost a bit more, but you're talking. Do you really trust the Indians not to sell the Chinese the technology if they don't already have it? That type of thing. The stop, $300 million is what's going to cost for the 18 Super Hornets that Trudeau wants to get as stopgap airplanes. I say don't bother doing that. For $300 million, we could probably get the retool up here and just build new CF-18s. In fact, all we need to do is revamp the CF-18. The airplane itself is fine. Okay, it's not stealthy enough. Build a new version. A pure later truck. Oh, one of my uncles. Don't you bark, not even once. I just said, you don't hear the cats barking. But anyway, yeah, so, yeah, $300 million, for $300 million, yeah, we could probably retool up the CF-18 line again. I'm sure we still have that tooling. And just, okay, tweak it, and then just start building in-country our own. With 100 modifications on the CF-18, we won't owe Lockheed Martin or, is it Northrop? Who the hell makes the CF-18? Northrop? Grumman? Or Lockheed Martin? Who's making the CF-18 now? But anyway, I think our CF-18s were built under Canada Air or Bombardier. I can't remember. But anyway, the tooling, we retool up. We change 100 different things on it, which changes the design. In other words, we tweak it. And then it's a Canadian design. It is not going to be a U.S.-made airplane, meaning we won't have to pay those fees. Just redesign whatever is redesigned, build it so everything can have the bolt patterns of common parts. We can still buy those parts until we redesign. You know, reinvent, just refine the wheel, don't reinvent it. Syrian army, sorry. Yeah, so the British, more British planes to Syria, and they're trying to stop the arms sales of 2.2 billion. Oh, sorry, this is Saudi Arabia. Sometimes I just put, there's calls in the UK to stop selling arms to Saudi Arabia. They do about an annual, I think, of 2.2 billion. Now, I wish Canada would, like the 10 or 11 billion that we spent, that we're going to be making off these labs that we're selling to Saudi Arabia is great, but we know those labs are going to be used against the Houthis, which means we're supporting Saudi Arabia's violence. But it doesn't mean we should be supporting the Houthis either. But what I'm saying is we're selling our sniper rifles and our labs to Saudi Arabia. We should not be giving them any military aid whatsoever, regardless of the cost. That 10 billion, you know what? Take the hit here in Canada. The worst case scenario, we have I forget how many labs that was. If it was about 100 labs or whatever it was. Okay, fine, we got extra defense. But I'm more of a civic nationalist anyway. We move to a neutral platform, military-wise, like Switzerland, and basically a non-interventionist state. We could then be, have these for our home defense. But anyway, Yemen, about 10, because the Saudis kill about 10 children basically a day in Yemen with the war that's going on there. Again, I don't really take sides in there, but it's the idea that we shouldn't be backing it anyway. Now, here's another one. Geez, I'm going to run out of time, hopefully. There's so much to cover here. Justin Trudeau's saying, yeah, we're going to have peacekeepers around the world. We're going to do this, and we're going to go into Africa. Well, it looks like our Canadian soldiers are going to go fight child soldiers in Africa. So we're going to have to send our guys out to go kill 10-year-olds. That type of thing. Trudeau didn't think this through, so I think this is why he's kind of holding back on that. And, oh my God, everybody's getting what about me? Mr. Pure Later guy, you stopped at all my relatives' place. You might come to my place, Yeah, man, Uncle Miller, I know. Stop here. I feel left out. But I didn't order anything. But yeah, so this was also brought up in Parliament. What's the protocol for shooting at childless soldiers, basically, for us Canadians? Okay. Now, there's I don't know where this is coming out, but they're talking about the Arctic methane and that the world could be extinct in 9 years. Humankind be extinct in 9 years. Again, alarmist. I don't know where this is coming from, but what scientists out there. The methane in the Arctic, I think we could, if that stuff is coming up through the ice pack, man, we should be basically, exploiting that resource. We could just put a big suction cup on the ground with a hose on it, and away you go. Send it up to everybody, run off methane. 700 million of the F-35, which will be a 94 million each, way too expensive, and 8.5 billion for 90 planes. That's what Trump has got the proposal in his kind of get the price cheaper. But I don't know how he's going to make the price cheaper. I mean, again, you can't just say make it cheaper. It doesn't work like that. So again, how he's going about it, I don't know, but we'll see. Hillary Clinton with her future as female out there. Yeah. 24 million in Soros, and a total of 35 million is what he paid for the ACLU 12 lawsuits. Is 24 million that he's got going against Trump right now. I think Soros is a dead man by the end of the year. I'm not making any threats, but Trump is going to have him taken out. There's no. John Bates of NOAA, misleading data for basically the climate hoax. That's the second. Again, this is the year of the truth bombs. We heard about Bill Holder talking about it. We also heard Cliff High talking about that. People are going to come out and start blowing the whistle so that they don't get, when the lawsuits come in, they don't want to go to jail for these elites. The loyalties is going. But basically, the whole climate, the Rothschild-owned NOAA is basically, this is a guy working at the United Nations. There was a lady at the United Nations saying, no, climate change is brought in basically to unseat capitalism and depopulation. And this guy here. Basically, no. There is the data skewed for the climate hoax. Le Pen, Marine Le Pen, she talked about Ukraine. No, it was a coup d'etat. You know, that type of thing. Poroshenko prepares for long war and a draft, so that's going on in Ukraine. Got 3 minutes left. I got to wrap it up. Tulsi Gabbard bill to end ISIS funding. That's a good thing. Hopefully that goes through. 372 million. The Liberals here, again, another Bombardier bailout, which is bad enough. But the fact that they're sending all the jobs to Mexico, for that money, those jobs should be, again, and of course Air Canada is getting, you know, Justin Trudeau's dad, Bombardier and Air Canada, basically heavily invested in. That's why these guys keep getting the bailouts, right? Gen Z, the most consistent conservative since World War II. I already talked about that. Assad was out there in a short EU talking about with the Belgium, saying that no, the EU is who basically, you know, they were supporting ISIS. They're still supporting ISIS, and that is true. So I haven't seen a long interview of if Assad put out a longer interview, but this was a short one. But with Theresa May, I'll just end up on this, is that she was saying that no, Assad stays. Like, you know, the idea of getting Assad out of there, that's not going to happen anymore. So hopefully that they you know, again, it's not what these politicians say, whether it's Trump or Theresa May or whatever, it's what they do. So there does look like there is wins here. But again, can we trust Trump 100%? Probably not. But again, it's too early to see. Because if I was the guy, if I was in Trump's place, obviously, yes, I would be, you know what I call for and all that, and I would be setting myself up for that. But that would take probably a year to 2 years minimum. I'd go after the easy things first, sure. But I would want my economy strong from within before I did that. Because if the bankers pull the plug on Trump now, it harpoons his plan. So this is a chess game. We'll have to watch it. So if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Links down below. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Next time, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing, and have yourselves a great day. Good day. Hi, you're welcome. Take 2. All right. I had a phone call. I just came in and halfway through my World War III update. And it basically the guy blurted out his phone number, so I was like, I can't put that up. So I have to do it again. Stupid phone. I don't know, my machine is like that. Sometimes it tells me who's calling, sometimes it doesn't, you know. But anyway, let's get into this. Check out my hat. That's too bad, because I had Gazoo eating a daddy long legs on the ground with his killer instinct. Well, it took him forever to get to because he's lazy, but... Okay, let's start over again. Okay, I'll try not to babble as much on this one. 10 EU states support the Muslim ban, so to speak. 61% in France and 71% in Poland. Now, last night I think the lights were out in Belgium, and I don't know what that was about. And, of course, this morning there was in France a foiled attempt of a bunch of jihadis. They got a 16-year-old girl. The French police detained her, and she's basically, you know, a Muslim radical. You know, they're there. And, yeah, that was foiled. Now, also in France, I guess I'll jump ahead here a bit just because it's trying to keep it into one thing. There was an explosion at Flamanville power plant in Normandy coast of France. I think 5 people or so were hurt, but they say it wasn't a nuclear explosion, it was something else at the plant exploded. But this is my whole thing about nuclear power. Yes, it's statistically the safest form of power that we have. Hydro's clean, and if a hydro dam bursts, you flood a bunch of, you flood a village or two. You know, it'll drain out eventually. You know, but with nuclear power, I mean, especially with what's going on with Fukushima and stuff like that, that's still melting down. It's just brutal what's going on there. Yeah, that's an ongoing thing. So the thing is that's why I'm against nuclear power. It's like when it goes wrong, it goes super wrong. But considering all these little events all happening, Belgium power out, maybe that had something to. Maybe they were getting. That had to do with the power plant. Maybe France sends power into Belgium from there. I don't know. I don't know if you're from France. You can let me know where that power plant sends its power to, which would explain the power outage. But this also comes on the heels the next day of a thwarted terrorist attack in France. So things to keep in mind. Comet 45P supposed to pass this February 11th. Today is the 10th, so that's tomorrow. Again, these space objects. I did a response video kind of to one of my commenters. You know, about, you know, basically, I was saying in one of my, I think the previous World War III update, that if there was a space rock coming in, they wouldn't let us know in time. I think what's happening is, tell me if you picked up on this pattern. You hear the news, world elites are heading to their bunkers. And they go from their bunk to their bunkers from time to time. I mean, they've been building these things since 2012. I think they're pretty much all built now, but they're like, every couple of weeks or so you hear, oh, they're going to the bunkers. And about a week later, oh, this asteroid such and such just went by and passed between us and the moon. Oh, we didn't even see that one coming. I think it's the opposite. I think they see it coming, and they're like, we don't know for sure if it's going to hit, but until we know it's going to miss us, let's not tell anybody. The government has gotten into such a point where they feel like they have to lie to you at every little angle. But I made a response video to that. It's going to come out a little bit later. As far as my silver ones that are coming out, you guys put a lot of great comments on there. Thank you very much for that. Some of you guys were like, oh, you kind of could have spent better. Some of you guys were, okay, well, if you're thinking long term, that type of thing. Yeah, okay. I will probably do a lot more on the gold and silver and stuff like that, well, as I can do it. I'm more of a bread and bullets, guys. You guys know that. But it pays to diversify, too. Diversity is their strength, that's why. I know, don't flame me too much there. I got to use it somewhere, right? So, yeah, with the silver and stuff like that, I mean, all the world elites, they pretty much got gold, they got silver. You got guys like, say, Warren Buffett or George Soros or Jim Rogers or whatever. Now, Jim Rogers, I think he's a little bit, I haven't listened to him in a while, but he's kind of like, no, buy gold, silver. And he gives, I think, yeah, he's a tycoon, he makes money, that's what he's there. But he's kind of like, these guys are lying and I'm making money off of their lies, and I'm telling you. So what are you going to do? You know what I mean? I'm telling you how to do it. I find Gregory Manarino's the kind of same thing. Always bet against the Fed and you're going to 99% of the time win, and that type of thing. But I don't really want to get involved in the stock market. The only thing I've got in the stock market is my pension plan that was at my previous job, and I can't touch that till I'm 65 anyway. So that thing, it goes up, it goes down. I think it's up a little bit this time around, but it goes up a bit, and then they knock the crap out of it, and then it goes right down. I could pull some money out of it, and I'm thinking of doing my max yearly, take out the most, and you can do like one major withdrawal a year type of thing with it. And I was thinking of taking all that, take the monetary loss of the penalties, leave the locked-in stuff, whatever I can't touch, leave it in there, and take that and invest it in other things. And I'm going to do separate videos on that, like, how to invest, what you should have as a prepper. Bullets, bread, medication, seeds, gold, silver, whatever. I'm going to try to get into more of that kind of stuff, too. I do get sidetracked quite a bit. But anyway, so the RAF scrambled 2 Typhoon fighters to escort and possibly shoot down a Pakistani airliner, PK 757, or was it an Indian airliner? Pretty sure it was a Pakistani airliner. PK should be Pakistani. Because there was a guy making a huge disturbance on the airplane, and this guy apparently was a wanted man, and I'll give you a guess of what origin. He was one of those guys, I guess. So I don't know what all happened, but they guided the airplane in, and they were ready to shoot this thing down. So, yeah. China and Russia, basically currency wars. Basically, this is something that's been ongoing anyway. We're already in a currency war. We've been in trade war, currency war, shooting war, right? So we got a trade and currency war kind of already going on. Now, what they're proposing is China has already kind of gotten world reserve currency status, but they're not ready to really dominate the world yet. They can't do it yet. Even though they're hoarding gold and silver, like Russia and China and India. I think India is the biggest silver hoarder. And of course, India is kind of a bit of a canary in the coal mine with their, eliminating cash or whatever, which is having devastating effects on some people because, people there, they don't have bank accounts there. They do everything in cash, right? So there's that. But the idea that they're proposing, and Iran is also talking about dumping the dollar, but it doesn't really matter. It's not like Iran uses the dollar largely anyway. And I think that's more just of a saber rattle to see what Trump's going to do. And I think what's more they're looking at is to, instead of going after a one reserve currency for the yuan renminbi, what I think they're doing is they're going to want to bring out a